It was a gritty and really great game that came down to the wire.
It's intercepted inside the 5. Touchdown, Oregon!
Pressure and the throw to the end zone. Wow, what a play! Indiana wins it, and they knock off the Oregon Ducks.
Obviously, it's a get-back game, so it's time. The energy has to be at an all-time high.
Tonight's Ram Trucks Spotlight on the regular season meeting between these two teams. The only loss of the year for the Oregon Ducks. It was in Eugene. It was a tie game midway through the fourth quarter when Indiana scored the last 10 points of the game. The 2 interceptions in that game, the most Dante Moore has thrown in any game this season, and the Ducks stifled by that terrific Indiana defense in the second half. Just 64 yards of offense for the high-flying Ducks. 64-year-old Curt Cignetti. In his second season at Indiana, he is 25-2. They're the only undefeated team in the country. The 14 wins has shattered the school record of 11 they set last year in his first season as head coach in Bloomington when they went 11-2. They won that 3-7 game at Oregon, won in dramatic fashion at Penn State, went on to beat Ohio State for the first Big Ten title since 1967, and then walloped Alabama in the quarterfinals. Curt Cignetti said, "I told my team I knew we had a much better team than Alabama," and he believes that Oregon is a much stiffer opponent tonight, and they know that by virtue of having played the Ducks back in October. Cignetti's won just about every National Coach of the Year honor, deservedly so.
Don't tighten that thing too much. We'll never get out.
Native of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. About to coach the biggest game of his life, and he's a coaching lifer. Grew up on the sidelines. His dad, the coach at Indiana University of Pennsylvania in West Virginia. When Curt Cignetti was a young boy, he said, "I knew in the 3rd grade as a ball boy in Morgantown I wanted to be a coach." And he's on his way to the College Football Hall of Fame when his career is over.
Go!
The Hoosiers take the field. In terms of the crowd, it'll be a decided home field advantage for Cignetti's team. Greg, you were on the field before the game, estimated it's about 80% Indiana fans here.
And as it's filled in, it might even be slightly higher than that. I mean, they are out in droves, and a lot of IU chants in the concourse. You're making your way to your seats.
Here comes Dan Lanning. At age 39 in his 4th year at Oregon. They are 13-1, started the year 5-0, then suffered that only defeat at the hands of the Hoosiers. They've responded with 8 straight wins, including the 2 victories here in the playoff. 13 wins ties the school record. It's the 3rd time they've done that, including last year when they were the #1 seed in the college football playoff and lost to Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. Back in 2014, they won 13 games and lost to the Buckeyes in the national championship game in the first year of the college football playoff. These fans might be travel weary. They were in Miami for the game in the Capital One Orange Bowl a week ago. That convincing win over Texas Tech, the Big 12 champs. Craig, Dan Lanning said, "We need to put it all together." It's indicative of the season, the way the playoffs gone. In the first round, they scored a lot of points against James Madison, and then it was the defense that carried the day against the Red Raiders.
Yeah, he feels like, with the exception of the Rutgers game earlier in the season, they have yet to play a game in which all 3 phases were playing at a high level. Beat Indiana, that's the type of effort it will require.
Lanning has won at least 10 games in each of his 4 seasons in Eugene. He is 48-7 in 4 seasons. captains making their way to midfield. The front of the line for Indiana, you saw Pat Coogan, a transfer from Notre Dame, who played in the national title game last year for the Irish against Ohio State, trying to go back as an Indiana Hoosier. The referee and the officiating crew out of the Southeastern Conference, led by a terrific referee, Daniel Gautreau.
All right, guys, congratulations on earning a spot in the college football playoff semifinals, hosted by the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. With us tonight is CEO of Chick-fil-A, Andrew Caffey, Chairman of the Peach Bowl Classic, Percy Vaughn.
Daniel needs to turn on his microphone.
President and CEO of the Peach Bowl, serving his 28th and final year.
Now his partner, the umpire, Walt Hill, telling him, Daniel, turn on your mic.
Congratulations on earning a spot in the college football playoff semifinal, hosted by the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. I'm your referee, Daniel Gautreau. This is your umpire, Walt Hill. With us tonight is Andrew Caffey, CEO of Chick-fil-A, Percy Vaughn, Chairman of the Peach Bowl Committee, and Gary Sorkin, 28 years as the Chairman and CEO of the Peach Bowl. Thank you guys for being out here.
Thank you.
Oregon, you are the designated visiting team. This side is heads, this side is tails. What is your call?
Tails.
The call is tails. It is heads. Indiana, you have won the toss. Defer, which way would you like to kick? Right, flip sides. Indiana has won the toss and elected to defer their option until the second half. They will kick from the east end zone. Good luck, gentlemen.
Let's go down to the field. Two great reporters with us tonight. Here's Molly McGrath with Kurt Cignetti.
Coach, you took over this program 2 years ago, and now you're in the semifinal. What went through your mind when you ran out onto that field just now?
What we got to do to be successful and what I got to do to coach a good game.
You deferred. You're going to start this game on defense. What's the priority for that group early?
3 and out, offense, good field position, go down, score.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Katie.
Thanks, Molly. Dan, your leading rusher, Noah Whittington, was a game-time decision. What can you tell us about his status?
Yeah, look good in warm-ups. Think we're going to be able to lean on him. We got a lot of people here who can play football, and Noah's going to be a part of that.
You know Indiana well. What needs to be different tonight?
Play our game. No, you can't make mistakes against this team. Just got to go out there and play football. We're going to play loose and have fun.
Best of luck, Dan.
Thank you.
Sean.
All right, Katie, George, the running back situation is an issue for them. Jordan Davison, the true freshman who scored both of their touchdowns against Texas Tech, broke his clavicle in the game and is not here. They've had a couple of running backs drummed into the transfer portal since that game. Whittington's their leading rusher, but he didn't show up on the injury report until last night, listed as questionable. We believe it's a turf toe. We'll see how effective he is. Warren kicks off for Indiana. The college football semifinal of the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl is underway. Jeremiah McClellan got belted just shy of the 20-yard line by Byron Baldwin Jr. There's sound everywhere, these Hoosiers, including on special teams. So here comes the Oregon offense, led by the 20-year-old redshirt sophomore from Detroit, Dante Moore. Very accurate. These are two of the most accurate quarterbacks in the country. Averaging 234 passing per game, but held well below that, held to 186 in the home loss to Indiana in October. There is an injured Hoosier down on the field on the opening kickoff. Amari Farrell is the injured player, and that is an important development. He is a starting member of their secondary, and he walks off. That's good to see, and that's important because they're terrific on defense, Greg, but as Brian Haynes, the coordinator, said, they only play about 13 players on defense.
Yeah, they don't have ridiculous depth. They've had to scale their depth with versatility. You'll see a lot of different looks from Brian Haynes' group. 3 linebacker sets, 5 defensive backs, 3 defensive linemen. They play their guys very, very well, but they can all play multiple positions.
They gave the Oregon offense a lot of problems in the regular season game. The IU defense held the Ducks to 267 yards, their season low. And the IU fans making it difficult for more in Oregon right out of the gate. Hill Jr. is the running back. The quick pass is intercepted. It's going to be run in for an Indiana touchdown. D'Angelo Pons on the first play of the game. What a start for Indiana. The pick six by D'Angelo Pons. Nico Radicic makes it 7-0, 11 seconds in. Pons, one of the great cornerbacks in the country. First team All Big Ten this year and the MVP of the Rose Bowl.
And a big mistake here early by Dante Moore. Look at D'Angelo Pons, got outside leverage of an outbreaking route, and his eyes are in the backfield the whole way. The ball's thrown slightly inside. Pons grabs it and takes it to the house. The vision defense that Indiana will play throughout this game make it very difficult to take those free access completions. And Pons, who is a lockdown corner into the boundary, will make you pay every single time.
Well, Moore admitted he was frazzled for a while in that loss to Indiana in the regular season. They did some things he didn't expect. And as we mentioned, he threw a season-high 2 interceptions. He thought he'd be better prepared to handle it this time around. Said the pressure, that big hyped matchup when Oregon was number 3 and Indiana was number 7, was troublesome at the beginning. Indiana 10 players on the kickoff. It might be that Farrell, who was injured on the opening kickoff, isn't out there, and that is the case. So they had a late runner come on in Devin Boykin. And Quinn Warren kicks off for the second time. And McClellan lets it go for a touchback. Well, how do you shake that off, national championship winning quarterback Greg McElroy?
Well, it's not often you're getting your get back on track plays on the second offensive snap. You have a G-bot list as an offensive coordinator. What does your quarterback feel most comfortable doing? And you get to that list when things are starting to go sideways and the game is moving too quickly. I think you have to start by running the football. They did not do enough of it in the first matchup. Maybe get him a quarterback run and move the pocket and get him an easy completion to get him feeling good again.
And it is the true freshman Hill Jr. at running back, not Whittington, their leading rusher. Hill ducks under a hit and gets out near the 29. Try to dodge D'Angelo Pons. A 4-yard gain for Hill. When he's played, he's been electric. He averages just over 8 yards per carry, which is best of the Big Ten.
He might actually be a good matchup against Indiana with his true speed, especially on the outside the tackle runs.
Now Jay Harrison at running back. On 2nd down and 6, they do try to settle things in with a couple of runs. Harris has a first down. A long stiff arm to the corner, Jamari Sharp, to help him get the 7 yards and a first down.
This is what Will Stein said. He said, look, I abandoned the run too early in the first matchup against Indiana. At one point, they were averaging almost 7 yards per carry on a straight downhill run, but they got a little off script in the second half. He said, I cannot let that happen again. I got to feed the backs, and even though they're shorthanded, they're still going to stay committed to running the football.
Will Stein, the offensive coordinator, on his way to be the head coach at Kentucky. Play action pass, it's a screen. Jay Harris staggers but stays on his feet and has another first down with a 12-yard gain. Well, when I first got my spotting chart for this game, there were 8 running backs listed on here for Oregon. There are a lot of crossouts. Harris has 26 carries all year, and that's his 4th catch. He's a transfer from Northwest Missouri State. Whittington is going to try to give it a go. We think Hill's active tonight, as are Harris, and they've brought 2 players over, Hassan Ritter and Platt, from defense, who have not had an offensive touch this season. They stay with Harris. And he's a busy guy. He anchors Sports Center. He's also in the transfer portal, which is another oddity of today's college football landscape. Jay Harris is in the transfer portal, intending to leave Oregon, but playing for the Ducks tonight. They had 2 running backs jump in the portal who have left.
Which I think is admirable, and I think Jay Harris deserves a lot of credit for stepping up when his team needs him.
So a nice response to the horrible start for Oregon, and Moore's pass is incomplete. Should have been caught by Jamari Johnson, part of a tight end tandem with Kenyon Sadiq that Dan Lanning believes, as do many others, is the best tight end tandem in the country.
And Johnson jumped and kind of threw it off. You see the right hand go slightly above where the nose of the football is. No reason to jump there, and what's been a remarkably reliable talent down the stretch, and Johnson drops a big one there against Indiana.
3rd down and 7. Both teams had a hard time on 3rd down in Eugene in October. Dan Lanning likes to go for it a lot on 4th down. He's not going to have to make that decision. Malik Benson, the run after the catch. Down to the 40-yard line. D'Angelo Pons the stop. 9 yards and a terrific response by Oregon.
And this is a very aggressive group. You see overload, 4 guys coming on the left side of the center. 1 guy drops out. It's a simulated pressure, and Bryant Haynes does that over and over again. They try to mess with your rules from a protection standpoint. You're probably going to have a lot of free hitters. The quarterback, though, can beat it with quick throws. He does it to Benson, who does a great job after the catch.
7th play of the drive. Jay Harris, the lone back, as Moore goes under center. With a bunch to his right into the boundary. Harris did well to break a tackle at the line of scrimmage. Indiana doesn't miss many. 3-yard gain. Amari Farrell in on the tackle. He was the player injured on the opening kickoff back in the secondary for the Hoosiers.
And Oregon gets so much credit for their skill and their personnel at wide receiver. Of course, Dante Moore, the depth at running back. Maybe not tonight, but most of the time. But it's the offensive line, one of the top offensive lines in the country, that is going to have to set the tone tonight. They've clearly challenged that group, and so far in the 2nd drive, they're stepping up.
Roger Saliapaga, who's the 3rd tight end for Oregon, has come into the game. Harris spinning down at the 33-yard line. 4 more. Elijah Hardy and Aiden Fisher combine on the stop. 2 of the 3 linebackers that they typically play with. Isaiah Jones is the 3rd. You don't see many teams have 3 linebackers on the field at one time anymore.
And they will play that regardless of what personnel grouping the offense is in. Oftentimes when you see 3 wide receivers, you'll substitute an extra defensive back. They love the versatility of those linebackers and feel very comfortable with them in coverage.
Fisher's the leader. Dante Moore said he was troubled in the regular season game, that Fisher kept hollering out what play was coming. Moore over the middle, caught, 1st down. Good throw to Jay Harris, who has emerged as the star of the 2nd possession of the night for the Ducks. That's 5 yards and a 1st down.
And talk to Will Stein. They're going to kind of mess with the tempo a little bit, especially on 3rd down. Indiana's a group that will blitz your protection like we've seen already. That time they go with the quick snap. The blitzer can't get home, and it's a nice throw to the right pec of the receiver Harris. That's an accurate throw away from the defender.
Harris off the field for a moment. De'Aaron Hill is in there. 10th play of the drive. And it's a fake handoff to Sadiq and a designed run for Moore. Not a prolific runner, but he can be effective. And he gets 6. And as you said, both coaches will not be afraid to run the quarterback tonight by design with a trip to the title game at stake.
And Dante Moore is a very capable runner. Doesn't do it a ton, and most of his runs actually are outside the tackles where there's a little less damage that can be done. But in a game where it's win or go home, you can expect him, especially with shorthanded running back room, to get a handful of touches.
Play action pass, design, roll out, Sadiq the catch, and it's another Oregon first down. Out of bounds at the 17-yard line. Gain of 5-2, Sadiq. Finalist for the John Mackey Award as the best tight end in the country.
And with the aggression that Indiana plays with, misdirection is your friend as an offense. That time they fake the run to the left and they get Sadiq working against the linebacker on a slow developing flat route. It's an accurate throw, and Sadiq, especially in this part of the field, that's when he becomes a real focal point of this offense.
Sadiq has 8 touchdown catches, which leads all FBS
Indiana.
tight ends.
It is their first.
Timeout by Indiana. They're on their heels. 12th play of the drive upcoming for Oregon when we come back to Atlanta. A night, proud Indiana graduate, the great Joe Buck, will be on the call for that. He didn't mind the way this one started. D'Angelo Pons the pick 6 on the first play of the game, but what a nice response by Dante Moore in this offense. 12th play of the drive started at their own 25. Nice balance of rushes and passes. This is the 7th run, and it's Jay Harris dropped at the 19. And Greg, such a well-coached team. A terrific timeout by Curt Cignetti. His team on its heels, coordinated by Brian Haynes on defense. Let's use the timeout and see if we can get back to the way that they typically play.
Absolutely. Just gather the emotions of the team. And I think settling them down, remind them of gap responsibilities, and allow that defensive line to just kind of catch their breath for a moment.
Second down and 12. Moore given plenty of time. Now zings toward the end zone and over the head of his intended receiver. Sadiq was in the area, but it was De'Air Hill, the primary target. Can't argue about the time if you're Dante Moore. He had all day, but couldn't find somebody open.
Yeah, just a little bit high on that throw. Had him open, had a step behind the defense, and that's a play you got to make because the opportunities to get a guy open when the field condenses against Indiana are few and far between.
Noah Whittington is on the field. Their leading rusher trying to power through turf toe. They're 2 for 2 on 3rd down on the drive. A pocket again to the end zone. Touchdown! Jamari Johnson! And a terrific bounce back by the redshirt sophomore from Inglewood, California, who had a big drop earlier on the drive. So Moore's thrown a pick 6. He gets a lot of pats on the helmet for engineering that drive, and the touchdown pass is 29th of the year. Atticus Sappington. Challenge you to find a better name in college football. He adds the extra point. 75 yards, 14 plays. Took up more than half the quarter. 7 minutes and 38 seconds. And Moore 5 out of 8 on the drive for 50.
And how about the guts and maturity and poise displayed by the 20-year-old Dante Moore, who after the disappointment early answers back. And the Ducks are back in the ball game.
Awful start for Dante Moore. Pick 6. Interception run in by D'Angelo Pons of Indiana for a score 11 seconds into the game. But then the Ducks responded, one of their best drives of the year. 14 plays. Second longest by number of plays in the season. They had a 16-yard TD drive against Wisconsin. also their second longest drive by possession time. That one against Wisconsin went over 8.5 minutes. Sappington's kickoff is a touchback.
Time now for Chick-fil-A moves on the field, and it's unbelievable. They showed their hand just a little bit too soon. Here's Lou Moore, and here's the route by Jamari Johnson. Does a great job of running a little bit of a stick nod, but watch how the outbreaking action hesitates D'Angelo Pons. Pons flips his hips just enough to create more separation to the middle of the field. That was great design, great throw, and a terrific route by Johnson.
So here's the first play on offense for Indiana. Oregon's run 15. Fernando Mendoza handoff to Roman Hemby. Tackled by Dylan Thieneman. Mendoza in his first year at IU after 3 at Cal. Like Dante Moore, one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the country. As a matter of fact, that 72% would be the single season school record. He leads the country with a school record 36 touchdown passes. 6'5" 225 from Miami. Hoping to return home to play against the Hurricanes in the national championship game. He's on target to Elijah Surratt for a 5-yard pickup. It'll be 3rd down and 4.
And every time you watch Fernando Mendoza, you become more and more impressed. The accuracy, the decisiveness, the way he can push the ball down the field. To be sitting at 72% is remarkable, especially when you take into account how often they take shots on opposing defenses.
Hemby is the running back. He'll split time with Kalon Black. Plenty of time. Mendoza, another back shoulder throw and a catch in traffic. Surratt with 2 catches, 57 for the year, and it seems like every one of them is a back shoulder throw.
And the timing is so incredible, and the precision and strength of Surratt to work through the contact of the defender, flip at the last second. This is well covered, this is well defended, but guess what? On a perfectly timed back shoulder, you can't stop it. You can only hope to contain it.
They allowed plenty of contact from Ife Obidegu, one of the 2 freshman corners for Oregon, after the 23-yard gain. It's Hemby in his first year at Indiana as a transfer from Maryland. He got 4. He's over 1,000 yards for the season. 1,007 entering the 20th 1,000-yard rushing season in Indiana history.
And it's amazing, too, to think a team with a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback runs the ball more than 55% of their snaps. It's a testament to the offensive line and the talented 1-2 punch at running back.
2 of the very best offensive lines in the country. They were 2 of the 3 finalists for the Joe Moore Award. Here's a false start.
False start. Offense, number 67. 5-yard penalty. Remains 2nd down.
Khalil Benson, the right tackle, who's been rotating at that spot for Coach Cignetti.
And this was a little bit of a problem in the first matchup. They had a bunch of false starts against Oregon, but it was mostly because Oregon would stem the defensive line. That time they're stagnant and he still falls off sides.
Well, it looked like he did little more than blink. Now, they had problems with the crowd at Oregon, and they also had trouble with the movement that induced some of those false starts. Tough run by Kalon Black, down just shy of the 40, with Dylan Thieneman, the outstanding safety, leading the defense after a 6-yard run. Curt Cignetti, that'll be interesting to watch if Oregon does that up front tonight, Greg, because Curt Cignetti was very upset from the beginning of that game in Eugene. As a matter of fact, he got a sideline warning for arguing very vociferously well onto the field with the officials in that game.
And it's not something you see from Oregon very much on the road, but it is a real tactical advantage at home to move that defensive line when the offensive line's already a little jumpy. There's a move right there.
Not as dramatic as the moves were in Eugene. On 3rd down and 4, he's on target, caught the tight end, Riley Nowakowski. Taken across the boundary by Bryce Betcher, the linebacker, Oregon's leading tackler. Indiana, best in the nation on 3rd down this season, converts with a gain of 5.
They just do all the little things right. Nowakowski's working out an out route, but it's Surratt on the outside that creates a little bit of a rub. As an offensive player, you call it a rub, and that's what he does. He kind of tacks the inside and allows Betcher to kind of create some space.
Mendoza 3 for 3. The extended wait to get on the field didn't hurt him. Black runs inside the 30 with a gain of 6. He had 898 yards rushing in. Between Hemby and Black combined for more than 1,900 yards and 15 rushing touchdowns.
What a tag team, too. And they really, you would think they would complement each other. One guy's speed, one guy's power. No, they're both speed and power, and they run very aggressively downhill.
Eighth play of the drive. Hemby rips through the middle of the defense. First down, Hoosiers. Inside the 18-yard line, he got 11.
How about the job right here by Pat Coogan, MVP. The Rose Bowl was the offensive line. He gets movement against Amari Washington. And let me just tell you, it's hard to move Amari Washington. He's a load. These defensive tackles for Oregon are stout.
Had help from Drew Evans, the left guard. Washington's a terrific player. He's 330 pounds. Hemby turns the corner, has a lead blocker inside the 5 and out of bounds. They're going to mark him out at the 7 with just enough for a first down. Another good block by the center, the Notre Dame transfer, Rose Bowl MVP, Pat Coogan.
And they just do everything right. Carter Smith gets the first guy. Coogan doesn't turn up and double team. He just continues on his path, gets a piece of an Oregon defender, and it springs for extra yardage. They're so well coached, and the execution is outrageous.
Coogan said he chose Indiana for 2 reasons. He wanted a great culture and he wanted a chance to win the national championship. He made a great decision. Hemby stacked up. Ashton Porter, an edge player, sophomore from Cypress, Texas, for a 1-yard loss.
This is a part of the field where Oregon has not been at their best. In the red zone, they allow touchdowns on nearly 68% of the red zone penetrations against them. It's very difficult to keep an offense that can beat you with one-on-ones and run the ball as effectively as Indiana does. So Oregon must play at their best tonight when the field condenses.
They bring an extra offensive lineman onto the field, number 75, Zen Michalski. He's at the left end of the offensive line. Mendoza, end zone, caught! Touchdown! Omar Cooper! Nelson Fernando's son, Fernando Mendoza, perfect on the drive, 4 out of 4 for 41 yards and the touchdown. Dan Lanning and Tosh Lupoy, the defensive coordinator. Lanning very active in the defense. They have some problems to solve after that 11-play drive. 75 yards. They had it for 6.5 minutes.
Well, if you haven't watched Indiana, you just got the exact recipe: an opportunistic defense, an offense that can beat you on the ground, and the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback who's off to a hot start at 4 for 4. His family looks on, loving what they've seen from Fernando.
What a start to this one. Indiana's only offensive possession of the night goes 75 yards in 11 plays. 6.5 minutes. Mendoza to Cooper. They connected on one of the plays of the year in college football. That amazing catch by Cooper in the back of the end zone for their last second win at Penn State. Their closest call this season. The kick by Quinn Warren, a touchback.
And I just love this design. You see the inside leverage, which you're going to beat with an outbreaking route every time. Usually it's Surratt on the outside on the back shoulder this part of the field. Instead, this time they go with a slot formation. They get Cooper lined up against the safety and Aaron Flowers, and you don't have a lot of room as a quarterback. You got to get that ball up and down immediately. Mendoza does it. Cooper reels it in, and a terrific start for the Indiana offense.
First catch of the night for Cooper goes for a touchdown. That was the case in the win against Texas Tech. So more in the Duck offense back on the field. Jay Harris with the pickup. Here's Katie.
Well, Sean, since the beginning of the season, Dante Moore has worked with Brett Ledbetter, a sports therapist and consultant. Dylan Gabriel actually introduced him to him. Both Bo Nix and Gabriel worked with Ledbetter at Oregon and still do. Moore said his sessions with Ledbetter have helped him improve his mental strength. What an example, bouncing back after the pick six, guys.
If ever you're going to be under mental strain, throwing a pick six on the first play of the college football playoff semifinal would do that. And he did talk in our visit the other day at length about how much Ledbetter has helped him. Highly regarded man who's worked with the Oklahoma City Thunder, among others. That's the end of a very entertaining first quarter. D'Angelo Pons a pick six on the first play of the game. Oregon responded on the Johnson catch, and then Mendoza brought Indiana right down the field. Cooper the score. 14-7 IU after one in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl.
Out most to you from that first quarter?
Good start, pick six. Then we couldn't get lined up on defense. Farrell got hurt on the opening kickoff, our strong safety. So we had some new guys, but we couldn't get lined up on all three levels. And then a nice counter by the offense there.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Thanks.
And they don't have those kinds of issues very often, not lined up correctly. By any standard by which you judge how well coached the team is, Indiana generally excels. They don't turn it over. They don't commit penalties. They're great on third down on both sides of the ball. They make you earn it. Jay Harris is going to be on his way to a career night here tonight. Gets the call again. He got 4. His 7th carry of the game, which matches a career high. And we're one play into the second quarter of this semifinal. 3 out of 14 on third down in the first meeting with the Ducks. They're perfect 3 for 3 tonight. Third down and 2. They had a very tough time on third down against Texas Tech. And that continues. Jay Harris driven back by Mikhail Kamara with help from Isaiah Jones. And they're going to punt after a loss of 2.
Brian Haynes' defense is so good. You'll see Kamara slide inside, pressure off the outside, and he just beats the right tackle, Harkey, across his face. And there's nothing that Jay Harris can do. And the Indiana defense on short yardage, man, it is a war in the trenches. They're so athletic and disruptive that it's hard to stay in unison along the offensive line.
James Ferguson Reynolds, they have an interesting punt situation. Often he rolls for a while. Looks like it's going to be a fake. Indiana rushed him, so he kicked it right away. And it's a good one from the Australian. Rolls dead inside the 20 with a 49-yard punt. The Indiana defense with the stop on third down. And as Greg said, not much Harris could do, but ordinarily he wouldn't be in there in that situation. 14-7 Indiana, early second quarter. Quite a journey for Fernando Mendoza out of high school in Miami. He was a 2-star prospect. He's on his way to Yale. He's a great student. Then Cal offered him a chance. He was there 3 years. Started the last 2 with mixed success, 9 and 10 as a starter. They knew he was a good player. They didn't know he was a great player. He won the Big Ten title first time outright for Indiana since 1945, and he won the Heisman Trophy. First Hoosier ever to do that. He's backed up that award with his start to the night. 4 for 4. They're up 14-7, including a defensive touchdown, and Kaylon Black gets nothing on first down.
And Fernando Mendoza, he's a graduate level decision maker. I mean, he just processes so quickly. If you're misaligned, if you are lined up inside leverage, he's going to hit an out-breaking route. If he has a one-on-one against his best receiver, Elijah Surratt, he's going to find it. He just sees the field so well, and they put a lot on his plate post-snap with the RPOs they run, and he executes it beautifully.
Out of the pistol. The handoff to Black across the 20. Bryce Betcher made the tackle. their leading tackler with 125 coming in. Well, that academic component is very important to Fernando Mendoza. He told us yesterday, graduated in 3 years, very proud that he came out of the Haas School of Business in Berkeley with a degree. He told us it's the second-rated undergraduate business school in the country behind Penn. We looked it up, and he wasn't lying. Here's that running ability we talked about earlier. First down and much more. Finally shoved out of bounds by Aaron Flowers at the 41. By his own admission, it isn't pretty when he runs, but it's effective.
Well, it's really, really well done because it's a pressure up the middle. It's really well defended and blocked by Black, who picks it up. And the only guy that sees Mendoza take off is Washington. And at 330 pounds, he's really fast, but he's not as fast as Mendoza. So athletic in the open field.
Fernando rushed for 31 yards in the regular season meeting. Kalon Black turns the corner. Very late flag thrown after a 5-yard gain. Here's Daniel Gautreaux. Only one assessed penalty so far as a 5-yarder against IU.
Personal foul, illegal block below the waist, defense, number 7. 15-yard penalty will be added to the end of the run. First down.
Ife Obidegu, redshirt freshman from Baltimore.
This is a rule that got put in not too long ago, but it's to protect the offensive linemen who are out there trying to hit. And Obidegu goes a little bit low and takes out the puller, and that's what results in the flag.
Took down Pat Coogan. First offensive lineman to be the MVP of the Rose Bowl since 1944. Norm Berry, our statistician Mike Swanson, said was a terrific player. Roman Hemby for 3. Here's Molly.
Sean, Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza deleted social media from his phone to stay focused this season. The only social networking app he uses now is LinkedIn. So the projected top pick in the NFL draft has his LinkedIn up to date, even logging the Heisman Trophy. Under honors and awards in his bio, he describes himself as process-driven and detail-oriented as a leader. He's just staying true to who he really is, a business school grad, Sean.
My goodness, so proud of it. And I think it's a very apt description from the guy who is certainly not anything other than humble. Bryce Betcher knocked down his pass. Dual sport athlete, started out at Oregon as a walk-on on the baseball team. A very good baseball player, drafted by the Houston Astros in the 13th round, but his heart was in football. He walked onto the football team, had to give up a partial baseball scholarship and paid his own way for 2.5 years. Now he might have to decide. His dad is here tonight. He might have to decide for pro career with football or baseball, as he's going to be drafted in the NFL. Mendoza, the ball is loose. It got ripped out by Nasir Wyatt. Back in the hands of Mendoza, and Wyatt gets there again. A loss of 20, and it goes in the books as a sack. And very nearly just the second lost fumble of the season for Indiana.
And Nasir Wyatt is all speed. He doesn't play a ton, but he plays in obvious passing situations, and he always flashes. That time right around Benson, the tackle, they whiff on the chip, and he makes the play.
He had only 9 tackles all year. He's a true freshman from Santa Ana, California, but 2 of them were sacks. There's Mitch McCarthy, a 27-year-old Australian punter. Gary Bryant Jr. smothered at the 14-yard line by Charlie Becker, one of their best receivers. They put their starters out there on special teams.
And it's hard to get home against this offensive line with how quickly Fernando Mendoza gets rid of the football. But Oregon has the pass rush to do it. Wyatt gets home, forces a quick fumble, and Mendoza's dropped for a big loss.
This is the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. All 4 quarterbacks in this semifinal in the transfer portal. Dante Moore started his career 1 year at UCLA. It didn't go particularly well. Went in the portal, transferred to Oregon knowing that last season he would back up Dillon Gabriel. He was fine with that. He took the reins this year and has been magnificent to the point where some believe he might be the #1 pick in the NFL draft. He and Mendoza likely to be the top 2 picks if Moore goes into the NFL draft. He hasn't made up that decision yet. The ball slips out of his hand as he wound up to throw. And Indiana has it inside the 5. Mario Landino came up with the ball for the Hoosiers. Looked like Moore might have collided with Dier Hill as he wound up to fire.
That's exactly what happened. And without Whittington, without Davidson, they have not had a ton of reps with Hill. They have an RPO called. Hill gets too close. And as Moore is pulling it back, it hits the nose of the football against the left shoulder pad, and a massive mistake, but probably could have been avoided with more experienced backfield.
When you play a team that doesn't make mistakes, you can't make them. That's 2 turnovers for Moore. One of them a pick 6 for 7 points for Indiana to start the game. And now this one gives the Hoosiers the ball at the 3. Indiana is plus 20 for the year, leading the nation. You can say that at the end of a lot of stats. Kalon Black, the running back. He has blockers up and over, and he's down 2 yards short. Dylan Thieneman made the tackle. A safety who Tosh LeBoy believes will play in the National Football League.
You feel for Dante Moore, but that right there, just chemistry between quarterback and running back. And RPOs require a lot of reps. They're very expensive plays. You have to clear the running back's path, but the running back, as soon as he sees you throw it, has to get out of the way, and that didn't happen there.
2nd and goal from the 2. Kalon Black tumbles toward the goal line. He's down short by about a half a yard. Tatum Tuioti made the tackle. Outstanding defensive end, whose father Tony's the D-line coach for the Ducks. 3rd down and goal. Indiana 3 out of 4 on 3rd down. 56.5% for the year. Far and away #1 in the country. Mendoza with Black, the running back. Black straight ahead, touchdown. Kalon Black. Ninth touchdown of the year for Black, one of 13 players who transferred to Indiana before last season, coming along from James Madison with Kurt Cignetti. Niko Radicic, the extra point.
With the Indiana Hoosiers, if you give them an inch, they take a mile, and Dante Moore's 2nd mistake, miscommunication with the back, results in a fumble recovered by Landino, and a couple plays later, Black pays it off to give him a 2-score lead.
For the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, Sean McDonough, Greg McElroy, Molly McGrath, and Katie George are on the sidelines. 8:17 to go in the first half, 21-7 in favor of Indiana. Dier Hill back deep for the kickoff. This collision with Dante Moore caused the fumble. And Dan Lanning, the absence of some key running backs is showing up here in the first half. Quinn Warren kicks off. No chance for a return for Hill. Well, Jordan Davison, who scored both of their touchdowns against Texas Tech in the quarterfinal and scored 15 touchdowns rushing to lead the team. He's out, as you can see, with a broken clavicle. He must be tough. They didn't really know when in the game against Texas Tech it happened. And then since then, Jaden Lamar, who's kind of a Swiss Army knife for them, jumped in the portal. And Noah Whittington, who was their leading rusher, expected to see the bulk of the carries, is hobbled quite obviously by turf toe. So it's been Jay Harris, who was a 5th string running back at the start of the year. No gain there. Katie George.
On Whittington's right lower leg is heavily taped. This is not a wrap he wore last week in the Orange Bowl. He did go through his full warm-up. He was cutting and driving off that foot really well, but he's only been on the field a snap or two so far, guys.
That is a big wrap. And he must be hurting, because if you can't go in this game, you can't go. Dante Moore on 2nd and 10. Pressured, dumps it off. Harris to the 40-yard line. Aiden Fisher the stop. Harris is doing the best he can. It's a first down on a 12-yard pickup.
I think he's been pretty good so far. Of course, the mistake by Hill, it's not on Harris, but catching the ball now, 3 receptions for the running back.
Matching his total for the season entering tonight. Weaves through that Indiana defense for a gain of 7. Lewis Moore, a safety, made the tackle. Transfer from Ole Miss. He was hoping he'd play in the championship game against his former mates. He started his career at Indiana, transferred to Ole Miss, and then came back to IU after 1 year last year in Oxford.
And what a playmaker he's become. I mean, first team All Big Ten. Tremendous route recognition. He does a great job in the back end reading quarterbacks' eyes, and it's resulted in 6 interceptions this year.
2 shy of the IU single season record. Harris, the running back, on 2nd and 3. Play action fake. Moore running out of time and gets sacked. Dominique Ratcliffe and Tyreek Tucker. Moore had some time but couldn't find anybody, and it's a loss of 9.
And they're trying to take a shot here to Benson, but it's a great job by the center field safety, the aforementioned Moore, who plays it beautifully, stays over the top, sees it, and he knows that it's going to take way too long for him to be able to get it home. Dante Moore's got to lose that football.
Held on to it and took the sack. Under 6 minutes to go in the half. 3rd and 12. Moore under pressure again and down at the 31. Isaiah Jones there for Indiana.
This is what Indiana does such a great job of. They complement each other so beautifully. Look how well this is timed. You got Kamara's switching inside. He gets the pick against Pregnon. He's ultimately the guy who gets home, but that twist threw off the left side of the offensive line, and nothing more could do.
Oregon's given up 18 sacks this season, 8 of them against Indiana. Here's James Ferguson Reynolds. Line drive punt. Jonathan Brady out to the 39-yard line. Dante Moore and the Ducks are on the ropes. The Indiana defense ruling that last possession. 4:57 to go in the half in the college football playoff semifinal at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Game between the two. Rough start for Oregon, a pick 6 on the first play of the game. For Indiana, the Ducks have turned it over twice on the first 4 possessions, leading to 14 Indiana points. Fernando Mendoza, high throw, good catch in the flat by Roman Hemby, but then he got dumped by Bryce Betcher. Really? And Indiana again, Greg, doing what they do, which is not hurt themselves.
So efficient, and they force so many mistakes too. That's what I love about watching this team. Everyone makes uncharacteristic, undisciplined mistakes when playing against Indiana. They're relentless with their pressure. As you can see, the turnover margin take a backseat to nobody, and it's really across the board. They're phenomenal.
Mendoza, another back shoulder throw to Surratt. They throw a flag. He caught the ball anyway with Theron Johnson all over him.
Pass interference, defense, number 5. The penalty is declined. The result of the play is a first down.
When you're a defender, you have to know the back shoulder throw is coming, don't you, if you're guarding this guy?
They played it well. I mean, obviously grabs the jersey with the left hand, results in the flag. You cannot cover that. I mean, I don't care what the you cannot play the back shoulder much better, and it still doesn't matter. Surratt reels it in with one hand.
Play fake. Mendoza has running room if he wants it. Instead, sends it ahead to Omar Cooper. Brandon Finney made the tackle. Well, when Curt Cignetti's in the transfer portal, he's been labeled the king of the transfer portal the last couple of days by some national media. He looks for production over potential. He doesn't care what your potential is. He wants to see what you've done. Surratt is a great example of that. No offers out of high school, went to an FCS school, St. Francis of Pennsylvania, but caught 42 balls in his 1 year there. So Cignetti brought him to James Madison in the portal, where he excelled. Now he's a Hoosier. Deep throw, Charlie Becker! Touchdown, Indiana! Mendoza's 8 out of 9 after he was 14 for 16 in the Rose Bowl against Alabama. Becker has emerged as a standout over the second half of the year. Radicic, the point after, it is 28-7.
They can throw the back shoulder. They can throw it over your head. It's press coverage. Fernando Mendoza knows exactly where he's going. He just has to take care of the safety. His eyes start there to the left. Then his helmet swivels over, which buys just enough time for Thieneman. Can't get over the top. And Becker, the emergence since the Penn State game has been phenomenal. 6'4" with tremendous speed. He's added a deep throw element to what already was a remarkably balanced wide receiver core.
He's very speedy, great size at 6'4", terrific hands. Had the talented freshman Finney in good coverage. Last year as a freshman, he played in 12 games, mostly on special teams. Didn't have a catch for offensive coordinator Mike Shanahan. Had 4 over the first 7 games this year, but then Surratt was hurt. Didn't play in that game at Penn State. Becker got the chance, and boy, did he run with it. And he's been fantastic ever since. 36-yard touchdown. And 100 yards receiving, starting with that Penn State game, in 3 of the last 5 games coming in. That's his first catch tonight, the 36-yard score.
And his emergence creates a triangle in the secondary that you just can't account for. You already have to apply so many resources to Surratt and to Cooper in the slot. And now with the deep threat element that Becker provides on every snap, there's just no way of defending all these weapons.
De'Air Hill on first down. Out to the 29, a gain of 4. Really important drive here for Oregon. Kind of feels like they have to get something on the board here with the last drive of the half.
They absolutely do. Indiana gets the ball at the second half. Indiana's tremendous at the middle 8, the last 4 minutes of the first half, the first 4 minutes of the second half. So it's imperative here for Dante Moore to stop the bleeding and get some points.
They're going to have to throw it with regularity. He gets hit, lost the ball again. Daniel Ndukwe knocked it out, and it is Indiana ball. And Mario Landino has his second fumble recovery of the night. Third Indiana sack, third takeaway.
And how about the hit by Ndukwe, who's had to step up in the absence of Stephen Daly. He arrives immediately and makes the play. And Landino's right there. But that's what happens when you're Landino. When you do what you're supposed to do, and you're a great teammate, That's exactly what you're rewarded with. He goes out, he sets the pick against Harkey, the right tackle, which frees up Ndukwe to make the sack, and then Landino's there to pounce on it.
What a performance by the #1 team in the country. Mendoza breaks a tackle and finally gets wrestled down at the 20. Ifeobidegu finally got him down. As you mentioned, Ndukwe getting more time because of the injury to Stephen Daly, who led the Big Ten in tackles for a loss with 19, but he got injured in the celebration after their Big Ten championship win against Ohio State. And Ndukwe has stepped in. Next man up for Curt Cignetti.
2-minute timeout.
See if you can find a weakness. Dante Moore's hoping to find one. Doesn't seem that it exists. 2-minute timeout, all Indiana. Becker, the latest score. It's 28-7 for Mendoza and the #1 team in the country. Stay tuned for the Mercedes-Benz halftime report, led by Reese Davis, who broke out his very nice college football playoff semifinal suit tonight. We'll be joined by Nick Saban and Desmond Howard. It'll be interesting to hear what Coach Saban says. I mean, a long way to go in this one, but now you start to talk about not just the nice history being made by Curt Cignetti in the turnaround. Where does this team rank historically?
They're giving you some 2019 LSU vibes.
Yeah, that's what it feels like right now. Here's Kalon Black. They're up 28-7 at the 2-minute warning. 2-minute timeout. And they don't do it with 4- and 5-star recruits. Oregon on this team has 55 4- and 5-star recruits. All the other teams, the other 2 teams in this semifinal have at least 40, and Indiana has 8. Now that might mean that the rankings coming out of high school aren't really that important, because they might not have a lot of highly rated recruits, but they have a team loaded with tremendous football players who are remarkably well coached.
And what I love most about them is how selfless they play. I mean, guys helping each other on defense, guys covering each other on offense, different individuals stepping up. When their number's called, they make the play. They don't make mistakes. They're one of the most well-coached teams, most highly productive teams I've ever covered. And it's been doing this now 12 years. I love this football team, and the way they're playing tonight is about as good as we've seen them.
The attention to detail is remarkable. Mendoza handled the high snap. And down inside the 10-yard line. D'Angelo Pons given a chance on offense. That wasn't in the defensive game plan. The cornerback throwing a bone here, trying to score on offense after his pick 6. Mike Shanahan didn't tell us about that play yesterday.
Well, he already had a touchdown. Feed the hot hand, I suppose.
Well, he set the tone with the first play of the game. First play from scrimmage. Dante Moore threw it out wide for Malik Benson. Bonds picked it off and ran it in. His second interception of the season. And the turnovers keep on coming for Moore. Under duress all night. Daniel Ndukwe, the last strip sack. He's been credited with 2 of the 3 sacks. He didn't have a sack prior to tonight in his career. He had 9 career tackles. Next man up indeed. He's a sophomore from Lithonia, Georgia. It is a gigantic pro-Indiana crowd, and they're loving every minute of it. Hemby straight ahead with little resistance. He powers down to the goal line, and he's just short. And will Dan Lanning use his last timeout? For the moment, no. Has to be a helpless feeling for Lanning, like Curt Cignetti and all 4 of the head coaches in the semifinal. Once an assistant at Alabama under Nick Saban. Kobe Martin comes in at running back. He's lined up in front of Roman Hemby. Hemby stood up short of the line of scrimmage. Tion Gray back up defensive tackle. Now Lanning will use the timeout, trying to get the ball back one more time with 1:01 left in the half. 28-7 Indiana, and the Hoosiers 3rd down and goal from the 2.
Got to be so frustrating for Dante Moore and the offense, praising how they've approached this matchup, talking throughout the week about how different they are now, why this outcome tonight would be different, significantly different than what we saw in Eugene a couple months ago, and they can't get out of their own way with some of the mistakes they've made.
You know, the big problem in game 1 was the 6 sacks allowed. The pressure, they couldn't figure out where the rush was coming from. The great way that Bryant Haynes disguises the rushes. Moore has 5 turnovers in the game and a half against Indiana. He has 7 turnovers in the other 13 games this season combined.
This goes to show you how difficult it is to move the ball effectively against Indiana. The windows are tiny and the pass rush is relentless.
So here's 3rd and goal. So many options for Mike Shanahan. Hemby's the running back. Mendoza quick pass. Touchdown, Elijah Surratt. He'll check it to make sure he was across the goal line as he made the catch and went to the ground.
And this ball got out so quickly, and Surratt did such a great job. Is he down right there? Where's the ball?
It's a touchdown.
It's a touchdown.
Not sure there's enough from that look to overturn it. But he knows he's about to get absolutely plastered. And right there, where's the football? You can see it just ever so slightly. Does it break the plane? Right there, where's the ball? Tough to tell.
The call on the field was a touchdown from the connected cam brought to us by AT&T. I think by the time his backside hits the goal line, the ball has reached the end zone. Just need to get it across the start of the goal line. Matt Austin, our rules expert, is here tonight. Rare time leaving his palatial estate in Kentucky.
After
and
video
he thinks
review,
it's a touchdown.
The ruling of a touchdown is upheld.
Another play like that, though, I mean, it's just so clinical. They run a little rub route, a little switch release. There's a defender right there about to blow up the receiver at the goal line, but the throw holds up Surratt just enough to avoid contact and allow him to spin into the end zone again.
Niko Ranicic. (35-7). 5 different touchdown scores for Indiana. The most recent, Surratt, adding to his Big Ten lead with his 14th. Cooper had actually tied him at 13 apiece with his touchdown earlier. The interesting thing to me, we keep talking about how well coached they are, and they are. We saw the graphic, right on 3rd down, best in the country, are right there on both sides of the ball, best turnover margin. 2nd least penalized team behind only Army. You'd expect discipline from the United States military.
There's nothing to be ashamed of to be behind Army when it comes to penalty yards a game.
And so you think, right, he's a great attention to detail person, but they must be there all day and all night, right? I mean, you can't be this buttoned up in everything if you're not there all day and all night. The assistant coaches and the players we talked to said yesterday just the opposite. One of the things we appreciate most, the coaches said he lets us go home at night. The players said he really values our time. It's a touchback from Quinn Warren, to the point where if he says the practice is going to be 30 minutes, their practices are short for the most part. That's what it is. And Brian Haynes and Mike Shanahan have been with him all the way back to the first of Cignetti's 4 stops at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. They would know better than anybody else. They said they have a great family life because Cignetti allows it.
And that's part of the reason why both those guys very, very attractive to a lot of job openings across the country. Say, I can't leave this. I have a great situation. Coach Cignetti lets me do my job, and we have a clear and established identity on both sides of the ball that the players love playing in.
Dante Moore throws on the run, just throwing it up for grabs, and why not at this point? You need to make something happen. Jeremiah McClellan, the intended receiver. Cignetti, this is his 4th stop. He's been a huge winner everywhere he's been, starting at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. He was 50 years old. He was coaching for Nick Saban at Alabama, and he said, I want to be a head coach. He went to IUP, where his dad is a legend. The field there is named after Frank Cignetti Jr. So my wife was upset with me, Manette. I was making $300,000 at Alabama, throwing a catch made by Malik Benson. The IUP job paid $120, and I had 3 kids on the way to college. 2 of them wanted to go to med school. But he took it. He got that program back near where his dad had it. Went to Elon, totally turned that around, JMU, and now here in Indiana there's going to be a holding call. About 65,000 fans in the stands with crimson on helped 2 of the officials.
Holding, offense, number 76. 10-yard penalty from the previous spot, remains first down.
Isaiah World, the left tackle.
Timeout for a defensive player.
There's a timeout for Mikhail Kamara, the injured player. Defensive end for Brian Haynes. And you think about how his life has changed, how Mike Shanahan's life has changed. When we talked to them before the playoff game against Notre Dame last year, they talked about starting out on the staff at IUP. Haynes made $6,000 a year. Shanahan made $8,000. This is about a decade ago. We asked Brian Haynes last year, well, how do you get by on $6,000? He got very emotional. He said, you have the help of your family, and we lived on food stamps.
Yeah.
Well, he just signed a 3-year contract extension that starts at $3 million a year for next season and goes up.
Amazing. And both Shanahan and Haynes deserve every penny.
Oh, they're great.
They are phenomenal. Incredible attention to detail. Great collaborative approach on both sides of the ball. No ego. Everyone just works together in unison, and the team plays that way as well.
Shanahan, by the way, also a 3-year extension starting at $1.7 million. Good work if you can get it. Moore's pass incomplete on 1st down and 20, intended for Jamari Johnson. Dan Lanning on the other side is going to lose both of his coordinators, and this isn't the way they want to go out. Tosh Lupoy and Will Stein. Lupoy will be heading to Cal, his alma mater. Stein will be heading to Kentucky, back in his home state. For the most part, he has been at Kentucky very little, and Lupoy's been in Berkeley very little. Their primary focus by far has been on this playoff, finishing it right with the Ducks. De'Air Hill tackled by D'Angelo Pons. 14-yard gain.
So difficult for both those coordinators to manage both jobs. They said it's been ruthless from a sleep standpoint, but they felt like they had their team prepared.
They both looked exhausted yesterday, understandably so. Good catch by Johnson. They're down near field goal range at the very least, but they're running out of time. 6 seconds. They stop the clock to move the chains. 19-yard gain. He throws it into the ground. 3 seconds left. Time to throw it toward the end zone or attempt a long field goal. And it looks like they're going for the field goal option. Atticus Sappington, 5th-year senior from Portland. Then on both sides of the rivalry with the Beavers, transfer from Oregon State. His career long is 51. This would shatter that. This is a 56-yard attempt with Ferguson Reynolds, the punter, the holder, trying to give them something to take into the locker room. And it's short. On target, but short. Mendoza 10 out of 11 for 110 and 3 touchdowns. In the Rose Bowl, he had more touchdown passes than incomplete passes. And he's doing it again. Here's Molly.
Coach, how did your defense force crucial mistakes in that first half?
Well, the one ball just slipped out of his hand, but we're getting to the quarterback. And anytime the quarterback gets hit, he's less effective. And we're whipping him up front. So,
up big. What's the message at the half?
One play at a time, nothing. We got to win more battles than they win in the second half. We get the ball first.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Sean.
Thanks, Molly. Coach Lanning, what do you got to do to cut into this deficit here in the second half?
Well, it starts with protecting the quarterback and taking care of the ball. Two things we haven't done in the first half. We got to go out there and get a stop on defense. We start stacking those things together, we can create some momentum for ourselves.
Thanks for the time.
Appreciate it.
Has to be a hopeless feeling. At the half, Indiana 35, Oregon 7. Wonder what the Miami Hurricanes are thinking right now. We'll send you the Mercedes-Benz halftime report after these messages. College football playoff semifinal. The winner goes on to the title game on January 19th to take on Miami. Kurt Cignetti and his Indiana Hoosiers look like they can book the trip to South Florida, leading 35-7 at the half. Most points for Indiana ever in a postseason game. And not sure how significant that nugget is because there hadn't been a lot of postseason games prior to the last couple of years with Coach Cignetti. The turnovers again a problem for Oregon. 3 of them turned into 21 points. Indiana punted only once, touchdowns on 4 of their 5 drives. They also have a defensive score to start the game. And Mendoza has now thrown 3 incomplete passes in the 2 games so far against Alabama and Oregon, and 5 touchdown passes. I think the debate about who the #1 quarterback is and who's going to be the #1 pick in the draft has been answered.
I think it was established even before this. I mean, if you're drafting Dante Moore, it's on a projection. You're getting a ready-made product right now with Fernando Mendoza. What a first half performance. And in the last 6 quarters, the guy just flat out can't miss.
About as close to perfection as you can be. Said he left Cal because he wanted to take a big swing. And the biggest swing of all is winning a national championship. It would pair with a Heisman Trophy. Only 9 quarterbacks have ever done that. A lot of work to do still. Atticus Sappington, the touchback.
Let's look at tonight. Capital One rewarding performance, and it started early. First third down of the game. 3rd and long. You think you're in pretty good shape defensively. Not against this level of precision. The back shoulder ball that we showed you in the very beginning of the show, it just can't be covered. And then you might be able to try to defend it. Instead, we'll just go over the top this time. He does a great job looking off Thieneman, the safety. Puts it where his 6'4" receiver, Charlie Becker, could go up and make a play on it. And he just continues to deliver time after time for this Hoosier offense.
10 out of 11 for 110 and the 3 touchdowns. He was 14 for 16 against Alabama for 192, 3 touchdowns.
Offense, number 62. 5-yard penalty remains first down.
I'm guessing Kurt Cignetti will give us the face.
There it is. Right on cue.
He will not be happy. He preaches all the time. Doesn't matter what the score is. You have to continue to play to the standard. Roman Hemby, the ball carrier. You know, his facial expressions became big on social media, memes. I'm not an expert on those sorts of things. You are. You have like millions of followers. And I guess that's a good thing. But so Kurt Cignetti was asked about, you pretty much wears that same expression all the time, like he's like that. And he said, well, if I'm going to ask my players to play the same from play 1 to play 150, then I need to maintain the same countenance. If I'm jumping up and down and my emotions are up and down, then it's hard to ask my team to play with some emotional stability. Mendoza on target, not a surprise. Elijah Surratt out of bounds at the 38-yard line. A gain of 17.
The ball just comes out of his hand so beautifully. He's got a nice compact release. The spin is so tight, and it's always exactly where it needs to be to the outside.
5 catches for 64 and a TD for Surratt. Now out of the pistol, Hemby. Stood up and driven back by Bryce Betcher. You know, he's going to fight all the way to the end. From right there in Eugene, Oregon, grew up a huge Ducks fan. His parents had season tickets when he was a kid. He used to go to every game. His dad, Brett, dreaming about playing for the Oregon Ducks, to the point where to this day, every time he takes the field at Autzen Stadium, he points up to where the seats used to be. His family has better seats now.
What a treat he's been to watch, too. And starting his career the way he did as a baseball player, walking on and becoming a tone setter as they transition to Big Ten. It's amazing.
Mendoza, far sideline, another perfect throw and a catch by Becker. Brandon Finney of the coverage, 12 more. Now we talk about the historical comparisons, the team for Mendoza. This does remind you a lot of Joe Burrow.
It really does.
What he did in 2019.
And throws like that, he makes it look so easy. That is a 15-yard out route from the far hash. That ball's 45 yards in the air, perfect coverage, and it doesn't matter because the timing and placement is perfection.
The receivers run great routes. They catch the ball, they don't drop it. Kalon Black bouncing off would-be tacklers and another first down. Jaden Kennedy, a safety, made the stop, but 10 more on the run for Black. He remains the running back, and Indiana goes a little tempo. Mendoza flushed from the pocket and turns it into a gain across the 35-yard line. Betcher again. Pretty nice to be the play caller when you have all these weapons, particularly this quarterback.
And they just runs it so smoothly for Mike Shanahan, the OC. And every single play has options. The RPO, they run it on nearly a quarter of their offensive snaps, so you can't defend it if Mendoza makes the correct decision.
Movement. Well, they got back. It was Ashton Porter who flinched. Hemby, he got lit up again by Betcher. We mentioned earlier, drafted by the Houston Astros, a terrific baseball player at Oregon. But now the anticipation is he'll be drafted in the NFL. And we talked to him yesterday, said he hadn't made up his mind, but you got the sense his first love is football. Mendoza pulls it down and scrambles. Spinning around, the ball comes out. And wouldn't you know, Indiana recovers it. It was Pat Coogan in the right place after Jaden Kennedy popped the ball out.
Well, we mentioned the mobility and just how sneaky it is this time. I thought he might split the safeties. I mean, he makes Washington miss, and he's right through it, tries to spin out of it. It's a good job popping it out. But like always, Indiana does the little things. The offensive line at 310-plus pounds for Coogan. He's chasing the ball, and he's right there to recover the fumble.
Hemby, the ball carrier. That is now 855 offensive plays without the lost fumble for Indiana with the carry by Hemby. They very nearly had their second. The first fumble of the season, and Kurt Cignetti knew the exact number when we talked yesterday. It was on the 18th play of the season in the opener against Old Dominion. It was a lost fumble by the running back Lee Beebe Jr., who was injured after that and has not played since. The number is actually 955. Roman Hemby, the ball carrier. And they're coming up on 1,000 touches without losing a fumble.
And the amazing thing is, what they do leads to fumbles. RPOs where you're putting it in the running back's belly and having to make a late pull, make a late play. What they do is actually kind of reckless at times with the football, and yet it doesn't matter. They're so well oiled with everything they do, from the running back's mesh to the quarterback's handoffs to how they carry it in the open field.
And now 5 wide receivers on 3rd down and 5 for Mendoza. To the end zone, wide open receiver and a touchdown. E.J. Williams. We talk about Indiana as a team. They have 6 touchdowns tonight. They've been scored by 6 different players. In the win against Alabama, the Rose Bowl, they scored 5 touchdowns, scored by 5 different players. Going to be a happy return to Miami for the Mendoza family. Niko Radicic, the extra point. Well, no complacency with the big lead. 11 plays, 75 yards, 6 minutes and 8 seconds, and the 6th touchdown of the year for E.J. Williams, a transfer from Clemson.
And how about the route? How about the throw? How about the separation? And Curt Cignetti says, okay, you did your job. And he gave us another big touchdown. I'm unimpressed.
A picture of unbridled joy.
You have to just move the upright in the way to stop him, apparently, last night. That was the only way to do it. And even when it hits, it might go in.
What a weapon he is. Wasn't good enough for Ole Miss, but congratulations to Pete Golding, his staff and players. The way they handled the situation over the last month was remarkable. It's a touchback. 42-7 Indiana, and I guess the question I would have for you now after looking at this, Charlie Becker getting rolled up on and limping off the field. When do you start taking some of your starters and key players out of the game?
I think you play one more series with your defense, and then at that point you give way to the guys that are at the 2s and 3s, because you have to be at full strength, knowing the physicality that the national championship game will require.
Meanwhile, an injury on the Oregon side. Isaiah World, the left tackle, limped off late in the first half. Fox Crater, redshirt freshman, is in at left tackle. Here's De'Aaron Hill. One man to beat. He got slowed down enough that the Hoosiers run him down inside the 5-yard line. 71-yard run. Elijah Hardy and Amari Farrell saved the touchdown.
That was a heck of a run there by Hill, and that's the kind of perimeter run that we were kind of thinking we'd see a lot of. Just haven't had much of a chance because the offensive line hasn't held up.
You see the speed of Hill. He's a big playmaker. The 71-yard run is the longest of his true freshman season. And they're inside the 5. The play fake by Moore. And a flag thrown, and D'Angelo Pons on a one-on-one ball to Malik Benson.
Pass interference, defense, number 5. The foul occurred in the end zone. By rule, the ball will be placed at the 2-yard line. First down, Oregon.
Tons of contact there by Pons, and results in the foul, but it's a good matchup to try to take advantage of with Benson, who can jump out of the gym.
Pons comes out. He's just 5'9", but he plays a lot bigger than that. Junior from Miami. He'll be heading home to South Florida for a national title game against the Hurricanes. Jay Harris, the running back, in the pistol. And down to the goal line. Touchdown. And they're going to go for 2. Try to take advantage of every opportunity, get as many points as you can. It's the 2nd touchdown of the season for Harris, a redshirt junior from St. Louis, who transferred in from Northwest Missouri State, and he was a Division II All-American. And this is likely going to be his last game at Oregon. He's in the transfer portal. 4 receivers to the right, the 3 widest in a bunch. Moore throws it to the other side. Single coverage. Jamari Johnson the catch for 2. And again, the size advantage there. He's 6'5" against the 5'9" D'Angelo Pons. 8 points for Oregon.
Regardless of what happens in this game and the outcome, Dan Lane has got to be thrilled with the way his offense starts the second half. Creates a big play on the ground. A couple plays later, they pay it off. So a good response by that side of the ball for the Ducks.
And they add the 2. Fernando Mendoza hoping to play in the national championship game in his hometown of Miami. It certainly looks like that's going to happen. That's going to be a tough ticket, but if you want to attend, here's an idea. Playoff Premium, the official premium hospitality program. Suite and ticket packages include premier seating, all-inclusive hospitality, exclusive event access, and more. Visit playoffpremium.com to book today. How hard is that ticket going to be? Miami's playing in its home stadium. In Indiana, I have a feeling how many Indiana people do you think are here tonight? 50,000? A lot of these people are going to try to go down there. They're one of the largest alumni bases in the country. That is going to be a very tough ticket. Assuming Indiana wins, there's still more than a quarter and a half to play. The national championship trophy is here, presented by Dr. Pepper. Indiana has not won it, nor has Oregon. They've twice played in the championship game, the Ducks, in the playoff era. Miami's won it 5 times. It's been more than a couple of decades since they did. What a remarkable job Mario Cristobal has done at his alma mater. Program built on physicality, winning at the line of scrimmage on both sides, and that has been the formula, part of the formula, to get them to the title game. Kalon Black is the running back. He has a hole on the right side. Kalon Black. Can they tackle him with the 3rd try from behind? They do. Run down by Jaden Kennedy, who is slow to get up. It's a 62-yard run for Kalon Black, but it'll come back on a hold.
10-yard penalty from the previous spot remains first down.
They're still tending to Kennedy. Transfer from Ole Miss. They called it on Bray Lynch. Crowd doesn't like it. He doesn't like it as he went up on the big screen. He has started every game at right guard these 2 years under Curt Cignetti.
Yeah, and they got it on the right guard, but they might have actually had it on the tackle. That's Coogan, number 78. It did look like he had a wrap right around. So I think it was the center who's had a terrific game today. I think they just might have gotten the number wrong there.
Yeah, Bray had his arms outstretched, saying to the world, "Why me? It wasn't me." 4th Indiana penalty. Charlie Becker's back on the field.
Please reset the game.
Now there's a problem with the clock.
7 minutes, 36 seconds, and the play clock to 40. The game clock and the play clock will start on my signal.
There's Becker. Hoosier Nation can breathe a sigh of relief that he's all right. Now it's Hemby. He got wrestled down by Jericho Johnson in the middle of that defensive line. A gain of 3. Fans still booing. But what a ride it has been for this fan base. When Curt Cignetti arrived, he immediately made it his mission to stir up some interest. Memorable quote, "I win, Google me." Went to the basketball game and talked about how their biggest rival and some of the other teams in the league are not very good. We cleaned up the language, but they've backed it up. Mendoza over the middle. Riley Nowakowski, first year at Indiana after 5 at Wisconsin. That's a 13-yard gain. Still just one incomplete pass for Mendoza.
I think that's what's most remarkable about what Curt Cignetti's done is getting everyone to believe that it can be done here as well. We had similar conversations earlier in the season with Clark Lee. I have to convince people that it can be done at Vanderbilt. Same thing in Indiana, but the way it materialized, how quickly people bought in and how quickly he changed the identity was truly remarkable.
Many of his peers lauding it as one of the great coaching jobs of all time. Mendoza on the run, doesn't matter, still on target. Surratt first down. Pat Coogan, the center, lost his helmet. And he talked about how Mendoza blended in from day one. And Fernando's leadership skills were evident. Said he got more comfortable as time went along, which is natural. You just don't want to come in and try to dominate the proceedings.
That would be difficult. And he, of course, has his brother, who he came in and immediately started against. But if you look at the efficiency, it's just absurd. I mean, to have 7 touchdowns against just 3 incompletions in the last 6.5 quarters is just outrageous.
Roman Hemby, the ball carrier. Well, Fernando did say when we visited yesterday that it did help when he was deciding where to go from Cal out of the portal. To have his brother Alberto already at Indiana. Alberto's the younger brother. He's a redshirt freshman. And a chance to be the starting quarterback next year. However, they brought in Josh Hoover, the terrific quarterback from TCU, out of the portal within the last couple of days. Here's Kalon Black again. We talked to Kurt Cignetti yesterday. He wasn't in a great mood. And he said Monday was a terrible day. I had to deal with the portal. He said, I have guys who are mad that we brought in players at their position from the portal. He told, I asked him, was Alberto Mendoza one of the guys who was a little upset because you brought in players from the portal? He said, well, everybody here should want to stay and compete for their job. You know, you just don't be guaranteed a job next season. But Mendoza would have to fight for Hoover, likely to be the backup again. Fernando, incomplete pass. Time to put in the younger brother. That's it. But how about Fernando, his brother's biggest fan? He said, yeah, I think my brother's going to be the best quarterback in the country next year.
Pretty amazing. And he said, I'll stand on all 10 toes. Verbatim. That's exactly what he said. And his belief in what his younger brother could do. Now, different skill set. A little bit more mobility, a little bit more of a runner first, but is developing as a passer. And I think if you ask Cignetti, yes, while Josh Hoover is a highly profiled transfer in from TCU, nothing's guaranteed in Bloomington. You got to go earn that job, and Mendoza 100%. Will get his chance.
Might see Alberto tonight. He got in late against Alabama. Mitch McCarthy. Of course. Second punt of the night, hits at the 5 and stops. And it's Charlie Becker still out there on special teams to down it. A 49-yard punt. They continue to do everything well. 42-10, the undefeated Hoosiers. 42-15, excuse me, with 4:10 to go in the third quarter in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Fitness projects. For more information, go to CFP-Foundation.org. Great program. Jay Harris is the running back. The Ducks scored on their last drive. Jay Harris stopped after a gain of 3. If you joined us late, the Ducks have played all night without their 2 leading rushers. It's remarkable how much their situation changed since the win against Texas Tech. Jordan Davison broke his clavicle in that game. The freshman who rushed for 667 yards and a team-high 15 rushing touchdowns. And Noah Whittington, their leading rusher for the season, with 829 yards, has not had a touch tonight with turf toe and has been on the field sparingly.
What a disappointment that is, too. Those guys all season long are just electric. Both running backs incredibly gifted, and just to not have them available tonight took the wind out of the sails before they even really had much of a chance.
Out of the pistol with De'Aaron Hill, the 71-yard run on the touchdown drive on the last possession. He got stood up and driven back by Elijah Hardy, transfer from Navy. Flag down on the play.
After the play, personal foul, face mask, offense, number 71. The penalty will be enforced half the distance to the goal. The down counts. It'll be third down.
Alex Harkey, the right tackle, yanking on the face mask.
Unnecessary and clear sign of frustration for Harkey, who's been on the receiving end of some very difficult movement up front from the Indiana defensive line.
Third down and 11. Hill remains the running back. Dante Moore is 9 out of 14 for 112. A touchdown and an interception for a pick six. He's throwing a deep bomb, and it is caught. Jeremiah McClellan with their best corner, Pons, in coverage. Don't hang up on the Ducks just yet. Don't book those trips to Miami if you're a Hoosier fan.
And he had to fight through a lot of contact, too. I mean, that could have very easily been called pass interference. Instead, McClellan, who's been really good, they've had so many injuries throughout the season at wide receiver. He's really come on strong down the stretch, and he makes a big play again.
43-yard gain. There's a timeout for an injured Indiana Hoosier back in the end zone. 2:48 to go. Oregon trying to make this interesting. We're in the third quarter in Atlanta. Back at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl in Atlanta, the college football playoff semifinal. You look at these numbers, you wouldn't think the game is as one-sided as it is. The total yards, not that much of a difference, but the big numbers at the bottom, the 3 turnovers, which Indiana has turned into 21 points. And Fernando Mendoza, 4 touchdown passes tonight, 40 for the year. Just the 4th quarterback in Big Ten history to throw 40 touchdown passes in a season. The other 3 all Buckeyes: Wayne Haskins, C.J. Stroud, Justin Fields. DeCorian Moore. Another big play for Oregon. They now have more yards in this third quarter than they had in the entire first half. And they're doing this with 2 backup offensive linemen in there. Isaiah World, the starting left tackle, and Dave Iuli, the right guard, are both in street clothes of the sideline. Moore incomplete. Pons creeping up, buying another interception. It was intended for Kenyon Sadiq.
I would think that Kurt Cignetti and his defensive coordinator Brian Haynes probably very frustrated, as you can see some of the injured players for Oregon on the sideline unavailable, but the O-line holding up for the most part. And Brian Haynes, I mean, they keep giving up big plays. I mean, the only way you let them back in the game, I mean, time is on your side. Don't give up big plays. Make them march it down the field. And instead, Oregon's moving the ball with the guillotine.
Harris, dropped by Mario Landino. Coaches rave about him. Sophomore, tough guy in the middle of that defensive line.
And his versatility has been on full display since the injury to Stephen Daly. He's had to play 4 different positions along the defensive line. That's really helped out in Daly's absence.
Oregon's 5 out of 7 on third down. Both teams have been outstanding on third down tonight, in contrast to the regular season meeting. Some nifty footwork by De'Aaron Hill. Tyreek Tucker took him down. 8-yard pickup. It's 4th down and 1. Hill hobbles off. As we mentioned, they brought 2 players over from defense to give them a little more depth at running back this week. Harris is the running back. Final 44 seconds of the third quarter. The pitch to Harris. He's in trouble and dropped behind the line of scrimmage. Indiana takes over on downs. Oregon Fisher, the first All-American linebacker in Indiana history, leading the way.
And this is great recognition. Oregon runs this fullback dive all the time. This is the changeup off of it. They fake it, they go with the Vegas pitch. You're not going to fool Indiana. And again, they are the best team in college football in short yardage situations. It's the second stop inside the 3 tonight. And Bryant Haynes, the best defensive coordinator in the land, looks on and loves it.
Well, you made his family happy, but you have a lot of friends among defensive coordinators around the country who.
As a former quarterback, you're nice to defensive coordinators. You don't want to
get. They're going to. The other 135 are going to remember it.
Well, it's tonight. I can change my mind tomorrow, perhaps.
Roman Hemby, the ball carrier. What could be, if the Hoosiers wanted to be, and it will be, the way they manage the game, the last play of the third quarter. One quarter away from a trip to Miami and a date with the Hurricanes on their home field in Hard Rock Stadium. End of 3 quarters here in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Indiana 42, Oregon 15. Last night, the beautiful Valley of the Sun, Carson Beck with a game-winning touchdown with 18 seconds left. His first rushing touchdown since the 3rd game of the season. Leads Miami into the final in its home field. What a game that was last night. 6 lead changes in the game, most in college football history. 4 of them in the 4th quarter. Valiant effort by both teams. What a great football game that was. So Miami awaiting the winner of this one, and it's Indiana with a 27-point lead going to the 4th quarter. Fernando Mendoza to Omar Cooper for a gain of 2. Carson Beck chose Miami in the transfer portal because he liked their chances of being in the playoff and contending for a national championship. And he's one of the great stories of this college football season.
Yeah, what a redemption arc. Of course, 2 national championships already, but as a backup, and now after being the last team in the field, they haven't asked him to do a lot those first couple games, but got to have it back against the wall situation. He threw a couple lasers there in the 4th quarter to secure the victory.
15-play drive to win. In typical of Ole Miss, they were still throwing the ball in the end zone on the last play of the game. Mendoza's pass deep downfield. Cooper hit the deck at the 30-yard line, as did Jaden Kennedy, and there is no flag. To the chagrin of this huge crowd, most of them Indiana fans, 75,604 here tonight. That's more than 4,000 over capacity.
And it looked like Cooper, who's to the right side of the screen, does get dragged down with the left hand of Kennedy. It looked like he outstretched it, grabbed a piece of the jersey and pulled him. Surprised they didn't call the foul there.
So is Matt Austin, our rules expert. He agrees with you. So here's Mitch McCarthy. And it's a return from Malik Benson. He brought one back 85 for a touchdown against USC. There's a flag down on the return, a 43-yard punt from McCarthy.
During the return, holding receiving team number 14. The 10-yard penalty will be enforced from the spot of the foul. First down.
Naeem Offord called for the penalty. He's good theater, and he's a Hall of Fame coach. Timeout, less than a minute into the 4th quarter. Well, not far from Mercedes-Benz Stadium is the Chick-fil-A College Football Hall of Fame here in Atlanta, and it was an emotional day for Curt Cignetti yesterday. On his way to the press conference with Dan Lanning, he stopped by the Hall of Fame to spend time at the plaque honoring his dad, Frank Cignetti Sr., who was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 2013. Legendary coach at Indiana University of Pennsylvania, where the field is named for Frank Sr. Won 199 games in his college football career. Kenyon Sadiq, the catch and the tackle. And Curt Cignetti, greatly influenced by his dad. I had the great honor of meeting Frank Sr., who did one of the national championship games when he was the coach at IUP. A lot different than his father, you know, his son, Curt. Charismatic, you know, kind of guy who Curt takes over a room, but kind of in a different way. Curt compared his dad to John Wayne or Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, and I know his dad's so proud of him. And like you said earlier in the show, knowing at a young age he wanted to follow in his dad's footsteps and impact young men and put together a program that's remarkable.
He almost lost his dad. Frank Cignetti was the successor to Bobby Bowden at West Virginia in the 1970s when Bobby left to go to Florida State. Over the middle more with Pons coming on a cornerback blitz. Twice Frank Cignetti Sr. was led the last rites. He lived after being hospitalized for more than a month. Wound up at IUP, where he said he became a legend and a Hall of Famer. Curt had never been to the Hall of Fame to see his dad's plaque because when his dad went in, he was coaching and could not be here for the induction. So he was looking forward to that yesterday.
So cool. And to think, too, to go back and start your head coaching career at a place that brings back such fond memories for your family is remarkable.
James Ferguson Reynolds to punt. And the tip of the cap as well to Frank Cignetti Jr., longtime NFL and college coach. Was a coordinator in both the NFL and college levels, and a wonderful human being as well. Delay a game, the call. They were the losingest program in college football history when he took over, 713 losses. They've had 2 since.
Yes.
Against top 5 teams, Ohio State and Notre Dame both last year. Northwestern, by the way, is now the losing team, and they block a punt for good measure. Daniel Ndukwe, what a night he's had. His first 2 career sacks. And now a block punt, which was fielded by Caden Turner. And another ridiculously short field handed over to Fernando Mendoza in this offense. They'll start inside the 7-yard line.
Just amazing. Completely relentless. And when you put those 4s up in the air in the 4th quarter, it's a reminder that you still have 15 minutes to go, and you do not let up on the accelerator. Get the stop on defense, come after a punt, get a piece of it, and put the game on ice here in just a couple yards.
What could he possibly be not pleased about?
They didn't score on the punt block return. That's probably it. And I don't think he would have cracked a smile then.
Well, it's all 3 phases. Special teams moving to the forefront with that block punt. Roman Hemby down to the 5-yard line.
Played for Curt Cignetti. He was the wide receiver coach at Alabama when I was there. And
did you ever see this coming?
Never. I mean, I thought he was a really good coach, right? A really good coach. The attention to detail in the receiver room was remarkable. That's a tough room to coach. You got a lot of personalities, a lot of guys that think they should get the ball every time. He did an amazing job, but to see this level of execution is incredible.
Mendoza. Not sure at this point with this score I would want my Heisman Trophy quarterback taking hits at the goal line. Well, there you are. Taught him everything he knows.
Very, very lucky to have had him and so many great coaches on the staff. But he was our eyes on the sideline, and he coached the receivers. Jim McElwain was in the booth, and he was an extension of McElwain, and he was fiery then, just like he is now. I got a couple of earfuls from Coach Sig from time to time. Probably deserved it. Maybe I didn't.
Now he has some dismay with the officials, but alert to the situation. He's going to let the play clock run down and then use the timeout. The 3rd and goal upcoming. 11:41 to go. 42-15. Indiana on top in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl in Atlanta. As they can be, and understandably so. I think Dan Lanning won't care if he ever coaches in this building again. His Oregon head coaching debut was in the opener here against Georgia, the team he had just left as defensive coordinator, become the head coach in Eugene. Oregon gave up touchdowns on the first 7 Georgia drives of the game. That one ended 49-3. And now tonight it's 42-15. What a coach he is. He has it rolling at Oregon, and that is going to continue. There's 3rd down and goal. Indiana. Kalon Black, the running back. Mendoza fires back line of the end zone. Touchdown. Elijah Surratt. Get me out of here, says Dan Lanning. And Surratt, the first multiple touchdown scorer in this game, now with 2. Mendoza 17 for 20 for 177 and 5 touchdowns. The extra point's good by Niko Radicic, the Texan, whose parents were Croatian. He lived there for a while as a child.
The AT&T Connected Cam shows just an absolute seed right in the back of the end zone. They cover number 1. They cover number 2. You still have to deal with number 3, and that's Surratt in the back of the end zone. Another look here from the AT&T Connected Cam. Just perfect placement, understanding where he's at. Gets 2 in, no problem. And another touchdown for the Hoosiers.
The only thing we're going to hear in a few months, maybe we can steal the coverage of our ESPN NFL draft with the first pick In the NFL draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Fernando Mendoza, quarterback.
And speaking of greatness and greatness on display, we're lucky enough here on our crew, the K Crew, to be with greatness every week. This is Sean McDonough. I think he is one of the greatest voices of his generation. He was recently awarded with the 2025 National Sports Media Award with the Sportscaster of the Year, buddy. There's no one that's more deserving, and we're so proud of you for bringing that thing home.
Brian Wright, our producer, told me you're going on camera to talk about Fernando Mendoza, so really appreciate that. Yeah. Tremendous honor comes from your peers. There's so many great sports broadcasters around the country and so many greats who have won it. Thank you, Greg. I appreciate that. It really is a team award. We have a terrific team here, and this will be our last telecast of the season. It's always a joy to be with you and all the members of our crew. So what a blessing. Even in a game like this, it's a little bit one-sided, and Indiana was on the other side of that for a while last year before they scored late against Notre Dame. You have to appreciate the greatness of this Indiana team.
Yeah, it's truly remarkable. And well said, because I'm telling you, and I know it's prisoner of the moment mentality, but I think the happiest people on planet Earth right now outside of Bloomington, Indiana, are in Tuscaloosa saying, hey, it's not just us. I mean, this is just what this team does. They are a wrecking ball in every sense of the word on offense, defense, and special teams, and it will be a remarkably difficult out for Miami in their home stadium a week from Monday.
3rd down and 12 here. By the way, the 5 touchdown passes for Mendoza's 3rd career 5 touchdown game. Most recently in that win against Illinois, they really got their season off and running. That was a top 10 matchup. They won 63-10. Dante Moore got it off to Corian Moore down the sideline. Very talented true freshman wide receiver, who was their leading receiver for the first 8 games of the year, and then he got injured. He got 15 there. The Peach Bowl record, by the way, for touchdown passes is 7 by Joe Burrow. That was in a semifinal here in 2019 against Oklahoma when they could have named the score. They scored 63 points in the game. Fisher got a hand on the pass.
Doesn't this Indiana team feel a little bit like that LSU team, though, with the level of dominance? I know the star,
yes, they do.
The star power, maybe there's not as many first overall picks, but the level of dominance across the board, along the O-line, wide receiver, they have so many different ways to beat you, and that's exactly what Joe Burrow's 2019 team felt like.
That's the greatest season by a quarterback that I've seen in college football, maybe the greatest that there's ever been. But what Mendoza's doing now invites the comparisons for sure. Moore, the play fake, he's on target to Kenyon Sadiq across midfield and scampers out of bounds. Joe Burrow's the last quarterback to win the Heisman Trophy and the national championship in the same year in that 2019 season. 9 quarterbacks have done that. The last player to do it, Devontae Smith of Alabama, the wide receiver in 2020. 9.5 to go. Dante Moore pressured by Isaiah Jones, and the ball got deflected and fluttered out of bounds. He will coach until the final second, and probably after it as well.
Just feel bad for that gum. I feel like he's chewing it more intensely now than he was even in the first quarter.
Well, it's a remarkable turnaround, and not to diminish at all what they've done. Obviously easier in this era of college football. With the transfer portal, everybody's a free agent. With NIL, if you have the money to spend, you have the advantage. Both these schools have very generous donors. Mark Cuban's here tonight, a proud Indiana grad. Obviously, Phil Knight has been very involved in Oregon athletics for a long time, and that helps. But even with the new landscape of college football, what Indiana has done and is doing almost defies description.
And to think now, you referenced it being more easy to flip the program. Totally agree with that. What I think is more difficult is to display the level of dominance that you see now, because teams can no longer stockpile personnel the way they once were able to stockpile. You're more thin across the board. It requires more cohesion. It's more difficult to collaborate with that cohesion too, with so many new faces every year. So to think that they've done it this quickly, yes, they were benefited by NIL and the portal, but to create this chemistry and culture this quickly might be even more difficult than it's ever been.
8:35 to go for Aiden Fisher and the Hoosiers in their 49-15 lead in the college football playoff semifinal, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Playoff bracket brought to you by AT&T. The words of the great Brett Musburger paraphrasing, you are looking plausibly live at Hard Rock Stadium outside Miami, which will host the national championship game. A week from Monday, January 19th, 7:30 here on ESPN. Miami playing its home stadium against the winner of this game, almost certainly to be the Indiana Hoosiers. As a matter of fact, ESPN News is projecting Indiana will be the winner of this game. Dante Moore, back shoulder throw. Intended for Decorian Moore. 5-star recruit out of Duncanville, Texas. Devin Boykin had the coverage. There'll be a favorite. Fernando Mendoza returning home. His family lives about a half a mile from the University of Miami campus. He said coming out of high school, the previous coaching staff wouldn't even let him walk on. So I thought about walking on at Miami. They said no. Thought he was going to Yale, wound up at Cal. Moore rolls away from the rush, fires, incomplete. And Mendoza has a good relationship with Mario Cristobal. As a matter of fact, when he was in the portal before going to Indiana, Georgia and Miami, other considerations. Fernando's dad, Fernando, was a high school football teammate of Mario Cristobal in the 1980s at Christopher Columbus High School. Number 70 is Fernando Mendoza. Mario Cristobal is number 76. Number 65 is Alex Mirwal, who is the offensive line coach now of the Miami Hurricanes.
Pretty cool to think that Mendoza, and what a story, and the way it finishes, and the possibility to go home and win it in your hometown. I can't even imagine the emotions.
Well, it'll be a magical ending to a remarkable season. Kobe Martin runs out of bounds. And credit to all these Hoosiers, when you ask them, did you think this was possible? They all said no. Mendoza, I'm going to go there. I'm going to win the Heisman. We're going to be undefeated. We're going to be number 1. We're going to play the national championship game in my hometown. We talked to a couple of those guys, including D'Angelo Pons yesterday, who came over from James Madison last year, prior to last year. We said, well, what did Signetti say to you? What did you expect? He said, well, we knew Indiana would get better because that's what Sig does. So he said, my dad, when I was in the portal, asked Signetti, so you think they're going to be okay? You think you're going to go to a bowl game next year? And Signetti gave him the Signetti face and said, bowl game, and we're going to do much better than that. And as usual, he was right. Kobe Martin, the redshirt freshman from Fishers, Indiana. 25, that might have been a touchdown.
The most amazing thing too is Signetti's ability to recognize players with specific traits. Pons is a great example. Many programs would look at a corner that's 5'9" and say, I don't know. And there's his father, Angelo Pons, who's what a young man D'Angelo is, by the way, just so competitive. From a great high school teammate of Jeremiah Smith. Never felt like he would lose a battle against Jeremiah, but identifying guys with key traits and competitiveness and buy-in. It's remarkable.
Well, it's interesting. I never heard this in a meeting. You know, we're talking about identifying prospects, whether it's high school players or in the portal, where Signetti has excelled. And he talked to you, and you thought it must be an Alabama thing about, well, he has good ankle flexibility.
Right, yeah. Hip, ankle, knee flexibility.
Is that a Nick Saban thing?
That's it. If you can do that, if you have fluidity in your body, in your lower half in particular, that translates to the field really well. So that's a high premium, but what is not is length. For example, D'Angelo Pons at 5'9". Who cares? How does he compete? Most
ankle
schools,
flexibility.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It has to be that, nothing else. But most schools would say, I don't know, he's a little too short. Doesn't matter. He can play. Production over potential.
Here's Kobe Martin. He had 2 100-yard games this season as their number 3 running back. I think you have a lot of people around America now looking into their personal trainers or going to their gym and thinking, I'm going to start working on my ankle flexibility. Does it help golf?
I think you might want to be strong in the ankles in golf. I don't know. I'm not good. So, not sure I have the answer for you.
He's a character. Would quirky be a fair description?
I think
mean
so.
that in a complimentary way.
Yeah. He marches to the beat of his own drum.
Kalon Black, big haul. Kalon Black, touchdown. Oh, and finally a smile. I am surprised some of these key players are still in the game. If Kalon Black or Fernando Mendoza gets hurt right now, there are a lot of questions to answer.
Yeah, I think that it's more about sending a message. That's really it. You're sending a message to your team that you play for 60 minutes. The score does not matter. It does not impact your approach to each individual snap. That's the process. That's process-oriented thinking, and that's the message you send by keeping those guys in the game.
Radicic, the extra point. Kalon Black, another who came over from James Madison. He has scored 2, but the night belongs to Mendoza.
Time for the protection spotlight presented by Prudential, and it's the touchdown passes. 5 of them, 4 different wide receivers, back shoulders, short throws, deep balls, double moves. It didn't matter. He did it all and was so accurate and decisive throughout the day. He continues to play with a ridiculous hot hand. And yet another performance today in which he has more touchdown passes than incompletions. You didn't think it could be replicated, not against a great defense like Oregon. I think he's taken it to the next level tonight.
8 touchdown passes in the 2 playoff games. 5 incompletions. You know, and he said yesterday, he has a great sense of humor too. We asked him, you're definitely going to draft, right? He does have a year of eligibility. He said, well, obviously Sig's trying to force me out now that they're bringing Hoover in the transfer portal. I think Hoover is coming because they know Mendoza's going. Here's Molly McGrath.
Well, Sean, we chatted with Fernando Mendoza Sr. and Elsa Mendoza before the game. You mentioned Fernando Sr. was an O-lineman with Miami coach Mario Cristobal in high school, and Fernando Sr. played right tackle. Cristobal was a left tackle, so they anchored that offensive line together. They saw each other through a lot. He said Cristobal was intense even back then. He's still really close with Mirabal, and he wouldn't even discuss the possibility of playing in Miami next week. He said, I'm nervous enough for tonight. That is all I'm thinking about, 1-0 mentality, just like his son Fernando Jr., Sean.
The old apple doesn't fall far from the tree. On target, Dante Moore to Jeremiah McClellan. And when you watched Fernando's Heisman Trophy speech, it was remarkably emotional and eloquent, and you heard the way he spoke about his mother, who's battling MS. And if you didn't come away from that thinking, what a young man he is, you're probably not human.
Yeah.
And Fernando certainly is.
Yeah, incredible. And what a wonderful family. And the way they've raised that young man, I love the kid. I don't know what else to tell you. He's just a phenomenal human being.
And well over his teammates and coaches almost immediately. Moore under pressure throws it away. Molly?
Well, Sean, Elsa Mendoza said before the game this year has been absolutely surreal. She said when she looks at Fernando, she sees who he was as a 2-year-old, and now she looks around this stadium and everyone's wearing his jersey. There are flags with his face on it. She said she cannot believe that that's her baby boy. And remember, she played tennis at Miami and said Fernando was playing in his hometown is one of those full circle moments that she has prayed for.
And the prayers are answered. Here's McClellan again, run after the catch. He's taken down. Caden Turner tackle. There's some of those jerseys that Molly was talking about. They're everywhere.
He's so good, man. I mean, he's so good. It's just absurd. And big hug from his center, Pat Coogan, and Looking like, based on the handshake performed by him and his brother, next time Indiana gets the ball, he'll give way to Alberto.
Jay Harris, the running back, in trouble on 3rd down and 1. Did well to get to the line to gain and a first down. And he'll have a night to remember for the rest of his life, but I'm sure he would have liked to remain the understudy. Not sure the result would have been different, but I'm reasonably certain, Greg, Dan Lanning's team would have been more competitive with Jordan Davis and Noah Whittington tonight.
There's no doubt. And this is so disappointing after what was a tremendous 13-1 season for Dan Lanning. To have comparable disappointment to the experience you had last year in the Rose Bowl, to get blown out against an in-conference foe, it's really, really disappointing.
Dante Moore, we talk about spinning this forward. He told us yesterday, earlier in the week, he wasn't sure about if he's going to come back to school or not. A lot of the NFL types, including Mel Kiper, has maybe he's a top 2 pick. After tonight, I would think if he's thinking about coming back may be a good idea. There's more to do.
There is, and I don't think there was ever a chance he could overtake Fernando, even regardless of how things were going. The gap between the two, based on the tape this season, is too significant, and he does have work to do. The draft positioning for Dante Moore is purely projection. He has all the tools, he has all the measurables, the arm talent, but he still needs to play more ball. And this Oregon team in general, very, very young and should be really good next season.
Swing pass for Daire Hill. That lead blocker, number 25, is Kilohana Hasselritter, one of the players they moved over from defensive back to running back because of the lack of available bodies and running back, and he was out there as a lead blocker.
And this is pretty nicely done. You can see from the AT&T connected cam, but what I love most about this is the finish right there. Big finish on the run, and that really doesn't make much of a difference. It's a couple yards. The game is in hand. But it does tell you a little bit about the character of Daire Hill right there, who finishes the run when the game's sideways.
2.5 to go. And that pass through the hands of DeCorian Moore, who might not have been fully engaged with crimson-clad folks coming in his direction.
Had Oregon made it to the national championship this year, I think many people, self-included, those that have covered the team, they all feel like 2027 was the year. 2026, excuse me, was the year. That was the year when you had this young nucleus that would have a lot of experience and be ready to make their run. Felt like they might arrive a little early until the nightmare of tonight.
Second down and 10. Moore's 21 to 35 for 247. A flip to Jeremiah McClellan. He got dumped by Isaiah Jones in his 4th season all at Indiana. This will be win number 26 for Curt Cignetti in 2 years at Indiana. 26-2. It's the most wins by a coach in his first 2 seasons at any school since the AP poll debuted in 1936. Previous mark was 25 by Kalen DeBoer. Spent some time at Indiana as an assistant at Washington in 2022 and 2023. 2 minutes to go. Indiana on its way to Miami, leading 56-15.
Trucks post game. We will have the live trophy presentation. Fernando Mendoza is going to stop by to join us. We'll hear from both coaches involved. And fellas, it's been quite a performance. We'll get it back up to the National Sportscaster of the Year, my friend Sean McDonough. How about it?
Thank you, Scotty. Scott's high maintenance. A lot of people down there. You need all those people.
It's an entourage.
A little 15-second on camera. We do have plenty of help up here as well.
Timeout. Oregon.
Oregon calls a timeout out of the 2-minute stoppage. And as we say that, our thanks to the people who help us dramatically in this booth, make us look better than we are. Zach Rapatrazone, our great spotter. Mike Swanson, our legendary stats man. Kelly Emerson, our stage manager, who makes sure every detail. Here's Zach. There's Swanee right there. Matt Austin, our rules fisher. Kelly in the background. There she is. I thought Kelly would be camera shy, but I'm glad she's not.
No, I love it.
And our tremendous crew. 65 members.
CK.
All of them fantastic at what they do, and all of them wonderful people to be around. The K Crew, as we're known at ESPN. Here's Jamari Johnson. Great run after the catch. He got yanked down just shy of the end zone by Jaja Boyd, a redshirt freshman from Philadelphia, deep backup. That's just his 8th tackle of the year, but he prevented a touchdown. It's a 39-yard gain, 37 after the catch for Jamari Johnson.
He got all of it too from Johnson, who does the stiff arm and somehow is able to get Boyd to the ground. Boyd did a great job of holding on for dear life because he went for a ride against the big body Johnson.
Minute and a half to go. Jay Harris. It'll be 2nd and goal. Disappointing for Dan Lanning, but a great night for the Big Ten regardless of this happened. It's an all Big Ten semifinal. So Brian Haynes and the Hoosiers will try to win the 3rd straight national championship for the Big Ten, something that hasn't happened since the first 3 years of the 1940s. Michigan 2 years ago, Ohio State last year, and perhaps Indiana. They'll be the favorite against Miami. The Big Ten has established itself as the premier conference in college football right now for sure. Flag thrown. Rogers Saliapaga, 3rd string tight end, got tangled up with Amari Farrell.
Pass interference. Defense, number 18. Half the distance to the goal. 1st down.
56 points, the 2nd most in Peach Bowl history. We've compared them a couple of times to that 2019 LSU team. They set the record with the 63 in the CFP semifinal against Oklahoma. Harris on the right hip, a botch snap for Dante Moore, and that's kind of fitting at this juncture. Threw a pick 6 on the first play of the game. Really the highlight of the night for them, Greg, was the next drive. They got it back, had to be rattled, and they marched right down the field and scored a touchdown.
2nd down.
Yeah.
After that, not so much.
No, it was a beautiful response immediately. But this was really more about Oregon's defense. I mean, they had no answers for Fernando Mendoza in the run game. It's just been nonstop, but they've put in a million bad positions by their offense, who was their own worst enemy with 3 turnovers.
In the meaningless stat department, Oregon has outgained Indiana 377 to 363. Harris, long exchange, and then Moore throws a touchdown. Roger Saliapaga, the sophomore tight end, with his first touchdown of the season, and you know they wanted to get it to him. You can see by the way the teammates celebrate. It's a highlight for him, even on a very disappointing night for his team.
Tried on that first one on a jump ball to the right-hand side. They find him, and it's cool always to see the reaction. A guy that finds pay dirt for the first time and see the reaction of the teammates all around him.
No shame being the 3rd string tight end on that team. The 2 that are ahead of him. Atticus Sappington adds the extra point. So with this win, Indiana will be 3-0 this season against top 5 opponents, including 2 wins against Oregon. We talk about history and over again. Prior to this season, the Hoosiers against top 5 opponents, you want to guess what their record was?
Oh my gosh. 3-87.
1-72.
Oh my goodness. Amazing. I know the win against Oregon was the first one on the road, if I'm not mistaken, earlier this year.
Led by Fernando Mendoza. 3 5-touchdown games this season.
not just rewriting the history book in Bloomington. They are absolutely torching that thing with no regard for anything that's been done in the history of this program.
So here's Sappington to kick off. His parents, this is going to be the really meaningless, when the game is really one-sided, nugget of the night here. Maybe not a nugget. His parents more successful on their biggest stage. They're chefs. And they won an episode of the show Chopped.
Really?
Back in 2015.
Wow.
His parents, Adam and Jackie, made a mean oyster situation. And you know the immediate message is going to be more work to be done, right?
Yeah, 100%. Fernando, you had 3 incompletions. We only rushed for 186, didn't get to 200, so work to be done, boys. That's probably the message, if I would imagine.
So they win the most recent biggest game in school history. They've had 2 dominant wins in this playoff, 38-3 over one of the great programs of all time, Alabama. Sig face in the crowd. And now 56-22 over the Oregon Ducks. A lot of respect between these 2 coaches. Dan Lanning said the other day it's the best coached team in the country, Indiana. How could you argue that? Mendoza 17 out of 20 for 177 and 5 touchdowns, and we welcome you to the Ram Trucks postgame.